I'm seeking to bring history to the present. I'm trying to alert America to the fact that governments in the past have fired upon civilians in this country and killed them, even soldier upon soldier, as I pointed out with the bonus marchers. This ties into why Obama is arming federal agencies with hollow point bullets. Far bigger story for the vermin in the media than the BS that came out of Aiken's mouth. Would you say bullets are a bigger story than BS? I would. And yet the little men, the Lilliputians in the media, are talking about the BS that came out of a congressman's mouth about abortion. They will do anything to cover up the despotism of this administration. Why is Obama arming federal agencies with hollow point bullets? They're not used for target practice. Certainly not. These are very disturbing news reports about various federal agencies stocking up on hollow point bullets to the tune of hundreds of thousands of rounds. Savage wondered why the Obama administration is so eager to help government employees stock up on such ammunition, as well as why the average American doesn't even know about these revelations. And here's what I said. Why does the Social Security Administration suddenly need 174,000 rounds of .357 hollow point pistol ammo? A message on the official blog for the Social Security Inspector General says, our special agents need to be armed and trained appropriately. To do what, I asked? So that if senior citizens riot when their benefits are cut, they can always gun them down like in South Africa? We're hearing that the National Weather Service also bought hollow point ammo. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration just purchased 46,000 rounds of such ammo. What sane citizenry on earth would not be alarmed when they read that a criminal organization like the Obama administration is arming every agency to the teeth with hollow point ammunition? Why would any government need hollow point bullets in any case? You don't need them for target practice. When you shoot at a piece of paper, you don't need a bullet that expands inside a body and tears up organs. Nobody in the federal government has an answer. You'll never get an answer from the Department of Homeland Security. That sorority house is not in business to help you. They're in business to keep you in line. That's what I said on this show the other day. And yet the vermin in the media, the little Soviet tramps, are talking about the BS that came out of the mouth of a congressman from the South, rather than the very real threats and scandals that are emanating from the Chicago White House. So I'll turn it over to the storytellers on the Savage Nation, called the average listener and caller. What exactly is on your mind? Name 5 stories other than the ones I mentioned that the little rats in the media should be covering other than what Aiken said about abortion. Let's begin with a caller who says he's ex-FBI and why the FBI may have spied on the Republicans in Israel. Mike in Pittsburgh, go ahead, please. Why did Holder sick the FBI on the Republicans?
Well, the reason I would say that is, it's easy to be seen why Holder would do it, but I'd also have to say it's because Mueller, the director of the FBI, is no better than a eunuch. He has no guts. He's not willing to stand up against the administration, and he will therefore do what the Attorney General tells him to do, which is to spy on the congressmen who are swimming naked in the Sea of Galilee. That's why he's there for another 2 years, is because they know that they're able to control him. And instead of whenever his 10-year contract was up, trying to find someone else, they knew they had a good bird in the hand. So why look for 2 in the bush?
Well, it's interesting you should bring up Mueller. It's interesting you should bring up the head of the FBI, Mueller, because I've often wondered why Barbara Boxer supported him so. She gave him such support when he was first appointed, and that worried me. When he got a clean bill of health from Barbara Boxer, I knew we would be in for some rough years. And boy, have we been in for some rough years under Mueller, haven't we?
We have been under some very rough years with the agency. And I know so many of them that are still friends of mine that still work in the Bureau, and they are having a difficult time dealing with Mueller and working through Mueller. But the problem is, like everybody else in this country, they can't afford to lose their jobs. And there's
I understand that. I understand that, but I also understand that we have a sort of almost quasi-fascist regime taking over every federal police agency and putting in their own people in there to the detriment of liberty in this country.
And that is exactly what Mueller has done since he became director of the FBI. You see that he has put in people in management positions who are, for my lack of a better term, yes men. And that's what he surrounded himself with. And I think that's why he fits right in with the Obama administration.
Mike, this ties into a popular film that was recently produced that was garbage called J. Edgar, a smear piece done by Clint Eastwood about J. Edgar Hoover. It was one of the poorest movies I've ever seen done in recent years. Clint Eastwood is clearly senile if he thinks that anybody would believe that garbage. And did you see that movie, J. Edgar, as a former FBI agent yourself?
My wife talked me into watching whenever it was on TV the other night. And yes, I did watch it, and I was extremely uncomfortable for the whole movie because it did nothing but sell movie tickets. That's all that movie was meant to do. And I don't think it was.
But the story about J. Edgar Hoover, the story. Let's start with who played J. Edgar. Who was that actor? Leonardo
DiCaprio.
Yeah, Leon DiCaprio. Leon DiCaprio did one of the poorest jobs I've ever seen done. His accent was wooden and false. He was wooden in the role. He was not convincing as J. Edgar Hoover. And all they focused on was the man's apparent like for men and the man's apparent like for women's clothing, which I found to be quite ironic, in that the left-wing media seems to tell us that men who like men are perfectly fine and men who like women's clothing are even finer. So why would they make such an issue about it when the fact is that as an FBI leader, he was the best we've had in the last century?
Because he's not around to defend himself. That's the only reason they did it. And I agree with you. He was the best that we had.
I wouldn't care if he served wearing a dress, high heels, and a wig. He was certainly a man who knew how to run the FBI. And I take him over the capons that we have in there now. Thanks for the call. We have a very dangerous situation. We're not at the tipping point. We've passed the tipping point. This man has purged every agency in this government and put in servile, sycophantic, dangerous, leftist bootlickers who are liable to do anything to America and to the American people. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. And that's why I'm bringing up the bonus march. Why am I bringing up the bonus army on a day like where'd this come from? It's certainly not something you'd hear on a news channel today. But I have to distinguish myself in my own way, and I have to bring in some historic evidence to bring forth to you on the show that may put things in perspective. We have had other despotic administrations in America's past. We have one right now. This one is a particularly malevolent left-wing sort of criminal machine. I'm sorry to use such strong rhetoric, but I passed a certain birthday on March 31st. I feel I have earned the right to tell you exactly what I see. In fact, not only have I earned the right, but I actually took on the obligation. The day I can't tell you what I see to be truths, I will not be on talk radio. There'll be no reason for it. I don't need the hatred of this despotic criminal regime any more than I already have incurred. Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think that I enjoy knowing that every word I speak invites these Soviet-era functionaries to increase their pressure upon Michael Savage? Are you aware of the fact that I am the only member of the American media banned from entering the United Kingdom? I mean, we keep hearing stories about Julian Assange, whatever his name is, with the WikiLeaks and what a great hero he is. I'll remind you that I did nothing wrong, and I've been banned from entering the United Kingdom. But no one in the media covered that. The folks, well, I don't want to go down that road because you're going to start to think I'm whiny. I'm not whiny. I won't talk about it. I'm trying to make a bigger point. The bigger point is it was somebody in the U.S. government during the Bush years who triggered the United Kingdom to ban me from entering Britain. It was an attempt to destroy me on radio here in the United States of America. I suspect I know who did it inside this government. I have not yet been able to prove it. But if you think that I and others like me who are clearly independent thinkers and speakers are not being listened to, not being spied upon by this government, well, I would disagree with you. I would seriously disagree with you. I can guarantee you that there are agents who are spying on Michael Savage instead of spying on the local radical mosque in your neighborhood. You heard me, and I'll say it again. They're spying on every patriot in this country rather than spying on those within this country who would fundamentally destroy the way of life that we have enjoyed in this nation since its founding. That's what's going on. Everything is at stake. Veterans are being targeted as terrorists. Those who believe that government is too big are being called terrorists. Those in the Tea Party are being called terrorists. So let me ask you something. Who are the real terrorists? So you get the picture. And that's why I'm in talk radio. It's why I get up every morning. It's the only reason I continue to be in talk radio. There's no other reason. The day I can no longer serve the people, and the day it becomes not unfashionable, it's already unfashionable to speak so boldly, the day it becomes untenable, and perhaps that's where I will go, or perhaps I will go live in Britain or in Ireland. Maybe I'll go live in Ireland. 1-800-449-8255. Chicago, Ben, why do you think the FBI was spying on Republicans in Israel?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind, Dr. Savage, was that they were, with this administration, they were probably doing intelligence gathering for Iran. Hello?
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Our FBI was going to send information to Iran?
Well, the way this administration is such anti-Israeli, I figured they were either doing opposition research, or who knows, maybe they were following the diplomats or the congressmen to see who they're meeting with in Israel, because an attack on Iran could be coming up pretty soon.
Could it be the FBI agents were there to protect the Republicans?
It could be, but with this administration's track record, I'm kind of cynical about that.
Yeah, so am I. So am I, especially since the FBI reported on them swimming in the Sea of Galilee rather than on any potential threats against the Republicans in Israel. But the bigger point is that you have one scandal after another being occurring in this country, unreported, or let us say dismissed almost immediately by the Soviet-era so-called news readers that we have in the media. And yet we have a statement from Mr. Aiken, an embarrassing statement, a foolish statement about rape and abortion, that is now going to be run for days and days and days simply to undermine the Republican convention next week. This is no longer a country where there is a free press. It hasn't been so for a long time. But it's become embarrassingly worse than it's ever been in my lifetime. It's a cancer. CNN is a cancer. MSNBC is a cancer. The major networks are a cancer. Yesterday, remember yesterday's show on the Savage Nation, those of you who listen loyally? Remember we reported on the director who threw himself off a bridge in L.A.? Do you know who reported at first that he had brain cancer and threw himself off the bridge? ABC News. Well, today they're retracting it. They're saying he didn't have brain cancer. But what did I, Michael Savage, say to you on this show? I said, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Every instinct in me says, I don't believe that story. I don't know why a man with brain cancer would throw himself off a bridge to spare his family pain. But that was the storyline that the cancer of ABC News put out. And I said, we can't talk about it from that perspective. Let's just turn it around to what if you had a terminal illness, what would you do? And that's why I kept saying to you, it doesn't make sense to me that he would have thrown himself off a bridge to spare his family pain if he had had a terminal diagnosis. Because my instincts are always right, especially on the radio show. I'll be right back.
Savage.